Okay, so we will start with repeating everything. Who remember how to, if I would like to edge now, to add edge loop here, we go to edit mode, I press tab, the shortcut for edit mode, then I go to tools, loop cut and slide. Now I have the option to decide where to put it. I can put it on each face, any face that I want. After I can also increase the amount with scrolling the mouse. If you scroll the mouse, you can add. You can also type number if you want to be accurate. Let's say 25, for example. And you can see the number down here. So you know exactly how many you have. Okay. After I'm adding, I decide how many to add. I click once. And then I have this option to move it to the side. If I don't want to move it to any side, then I would like to reset it. And always in Blender, when you want to reset any command, we press the right click on the mouse. And it will come exactly in the middle. Okay, so take a moment to do it. You said you remember it, but because this will be essential after this, we will use a lot those tools. Now the second tools we saw was the extrude. And actually, we can edit. We can add information. We can select face. Now, for now, we will extrude only faces. Although there is an option to extrude the edges and also vertices, but this is for a bit different uses. So let's start with extruding face. We have two options of extrude: region and individual. So let's see, region, and I will show the difference. If I will select all these faces, and I will extrude region, then I will get all of those faces will be extruded. And now again, if I will press the right click, then it will be reset to 0. But it's still there. And this, you might have difficulties with this. It's still there. And if I will pull it up, you see, I still have it. The other option to extrude, sometimes would be useful, is actually, I will take the same faces, I will extrude it individual, and I will get basically, it looks the same, but now see what happened when I select faces. You see what I got inside? So actually, it's also added those sides all around. Actually, only those two. And this can be useful for some, depends what is your model. For example, if you want to make fingers, this will be a good way to start. You would like them to be separated. When I select like this, then it's not important what I will take because they are not connected. It's apply only to connected faces. Okay, so this was extrude. Now, what if I want to connect together these parts from some reason? Let's say that I have it without those faces. Okay, I would like to connect them. So one way to do it is to go to vertices, and now it's important what is the order that we are selecting. So we need to remember that we select this one first and this one second. And then we can go to tools. Down we have merge. And here you see why we need to remember what was the first, because now it tells me if I would like to merge it in the first point, the last point, in the center between these 2 points, or in the cursor. So let's go on the first. See? I will do the same. By the way, if you press G, it's doing the last command. If you are on my setting. Look what happened when I do center. You just find the point exactly between these 2 points. And I can even do to cursor, just to illustrate. I will do one, although it's pointless in this case. But you see what happened? This vertex came exactly to our cursor. Okay, I think that's it. We'll create another cube. And as you can see, let's say that I would like to make out of this cube kind of a leg. And I would like to rotate this leg. And you see what happened, the leg usually is not rotating from the middle. I would like to move this point, which is controlling the rotation, to the top, because this is how I see legs operating. Just a minute. Or not. Okay, so one way to do it, if you want to do it really, really quick, is to go to edit mode, to select everything. And notice, I think I select everything, but I actually didn't. Because in Blender, it selects what the camera see, only what the camera see. Unless if we click 4, and we go to wire mode. And in wire mode, I can select everything. So I will select everything, and I will just move everything down. You see this point here in the middle? I don't know if you can see it. Yeah, you can see on the top. This is actually the origin of the rotation. So I can go down as much as I want. And when I will go to object mode, you see what I got. I got actually the rotation changed up to here. And this is more like leg would operate. Now, if you want to be more accurate, it needs to be very, very precise, then there are 2 steps, actually. And try to follow. If you won't get it, I will repeat it. So what we do, let's say I would like it to be exactly on the bottom, because I would like to snap it to the grid. So I would select this face. First step will be snap, and then I will go to cursor to selected, which actually what it means this point that we saw before would come to this selection. So snap, cursor to selected. You see how I got this cursor exactly here? I will do it again, just to be sure. So I will put the cursor here. I'll select this face, snap, cursor to selected, and it will come exactly to. Now this is the first stage. We still didn't do anything. The second stage, it will be to go to edit mode. It's a little bit confusing. Going to edit mode, the cursor is in the right place. Be careful not to press a right click now, because then you will lose the cursor. And now I'll go to object, transform, and I will go to origin to 3D cursor. And look what will happen now. See, now I got the origin exactly where the 3D cursor, and we are exactly on the floor.
Today we're going to start actually modeling from references from images. So we'll start, he reviewed the things you guys did last time. I wasn't here last time. We will repeat a lot of things on purpose. But if you don't get something, or ask, because we have, the way I understood, we have people here that are very beginner level. We have people that have a bit more knowledge, and we will need to level you off. So some things will be boring, some things more exciting. Okay, I'm going to start a new scene. So let's go with the new scene. We will do today new reload startup scene and be on my. If you saw, Yishai, already you showed this? Oh, okay, so we put on our website. Okay, there's the creators. So basically now it's very rough, but it will get updated. Also, another thing, we're doing a screencast of this lecture. So basically, we're going to upload videos afterwards, so you can follow them across. It's just capturing the screen, and so don't say anything bad or nasty. It's recording. Okay. Here we put. Okay, so there's a lecture 1. There's 2 PDFs with what you went before. It goes down, there's the hotkeys, and lecture 2. So what we're going to do today is this plane, because we all love planes, right? This plane is actually, it's just to show a way of, here's a reference of how this plane looks like. It's an arbitrary choice. This plane is taken from this website, the blueprints.com, where you can have millions of outlines of cars, obviously a lot of guns. Yeah. They're basically by categories. It's a lot of great stuff. Now, especially why I'm showing this, because I think next time not, but the time after that, we do want you guys. Some of you will more be interested in architecture, some of you are in characters, start sketching ideas, because we will go, we'll do a few just to show, like with a plane or some other objects, and then the idea was that we'll start modeling, let's say some person has a 3D character he wants to model, another one in architecture, so I would try to sketch top view, side view, front view, or take references, pictures, outline them. We'll show this today, and then in 2 weeks, I think we'll start with your models. So we will be able to work around. Somebody does a character, it's a bit different than a building, of course. But if you want, you have here a lot of things to go. I was thinking more things, your own drawings or whatever people are making. So, but anyways, there's a lot of other sites with blueprints or. Before we even start, I'm not sure, a few concepts which are very useful. If you see here, this bottom part here, these are our display layers, let's call it that way. And what this means, if I have a dot here in the middle, it's very small to see. Okay, you can see it there. If I click on the next one, suddenly I have it empty. I don't have an object here. If I will create, let's say I'll create a circle now. No, not a circle, a UV sphere. This UV sphere is on this render layer, on this display layer, sorry, and if I go here, I see the cube. So this is a way for me to organize in modeling, and it's actually very important to be organized. When you see, when we'll model the plane, we might put the body on one display layer, the wheels on another one, the props, and that way we can hide things as we like. The way we do it is by just clicking on the display layer. When you create an object in your, let's say now I'm on the third layer, I create an object, it'll be on this layer. If I want to see them together, I just shift and click the next layer. Now I should have both of them at the same time. If I want to move an object from a layer to a layer, I will click on, let's say this is the sphere is what I want to move. I'll click on M, and then I get this menu opening up, and it shows me, sorry, this is now in this second layer, and I'm going to move it to the third one, or I move it to the first one. And then if it's on the first, if we see, they're both here, the second one has nothing, just this circle. Goes. Why can't I click it? Okay, I just want to change something in my preferences. Okay. So again, the display layers, and it is very important to work like this with, especially when your scenes will get very large with a lot of props or this, and you'll do, let's say a building, the walls are on one layer, the windows and the thing on another one. We can always move them around, we can always merge them, but also from efficiency of the computer and efficiency of working, because you'll see a lot of too much details on the thing. So now I have this only on one layer. If I went, this second layer is empty, I will create now a cone. So basically I have this object now on this layer and this one here, and I can go to an empty layer. So I can model in parts every specific section. I will repeat this a few times just now till you guys download the thing. And now I'm going to delete. So now what we want to do, there are a few ways to use this reference images. What we're going to do, we're going to connect them to the cameras, which is the more accurate way to work. You could also put them on a plane. We'll show it in another time. I just don't want to get into UVs. So first of all, I'll stand in front of my screen and I'll press N to get my properties out. I think it's at properties. If you scroll down, so follow me with this case, because we're going to do this a few steps, and this will help you a lot with modeling in general, your own, you can connect any image you want. So I pressed N, I got this properties windows down, I scroll it pretty much all the way down, and here I have background images. I need to tick it to get it working, and then open the triangle to open the more properties. We have add image, so pretty straightforward. I click add image, another window opens, and here we have open the image. So I will open and go to, first I will go to my desktop, because I put my images on desktop, which you shouldn't, and I will take the top. So I have these three images, front PNG, side PNG, top PNG, and there is a PSD file that you don't need unless you'll want to adjust the files, but we will work here with GIMP. So image plane top, I select the image and I open it. Okay, we all managed to do that? We still don't see anything. We have no view of our image, which is a bit annoying. And then I press spacebar, so I will go into my grid, and now I see this image. Now, something very important, and maybe somebody with architecture will know how to explain this better, orthographic views. What we have is here, it says top ortho, and here we have user perspective. Let's look at that this way. If I do, so this is a perspective. An orthographic lens corrects everything. We have a perspective distortion when we look through it. So I will try to show it in a very simple example. If I'm looking now, I'm pretty much a top view. And I will press 4 to see the wireframe. You see that it's not a straight line. If I do Control-7, I became an orthographic view. So now, because I'm not totally aligned, right? But then it becomes exactly how it is, like a blueprint side. So the difference between a perspective and orthographic is flat. It's let's look at it in this way, and that will remind you maybe of computer games. When we have 3D games, this is in 3D world. When I do Control-7, it's a 2D game made in 3D, in a sense. Now I have this, I'm basically looking through a 2D world. It's flattened everything down. Control-7. So just to remember this, Control-7 snaps your camera from orthographic to perspective. But when I press spacebar, the other three, the top, front, and right, are always, they're orthographic already. And that's the only place where I see my image. Now I have another problem. I have my image, and this is the top image. I have it here on top, but I also have it here on the front and on the right, which is side view. So I want to only have it here because I want to load more images. Again, I go here into where my image was set up with all its properties, and we have on top here axis. So axis, it says in all views, and we're going to change this. We click on it, we get a few options, and we are going to change it to top. If I talk too fast or something like this, throw a brick. No, I'm joking. Okay, so we got, now it only shows up in the top view. So let's just see that we all got this. With Alt middle, we're dollying, zoom in with a roller, rotate Alt.
Now you need to change it here.
I'm going to put the first image, I'll finish it, and then the ones that get it can continue with the rest of the images, and I will repeat this, so I can move on. One more thing with the properties of this background images. I have here, if you see, opacity. If I move it to 1, that means it's now completely opaque. It's 100% opaque, I guess. And if I move it down, so you can actually see the grid through it or other objects. I actually like to work with this 100%, so I can see it without the grid. We can always change that. Another thing, we have here a little eye icon, and if I click this, I can hide this, this image. So this is the thing. What else do we have? We have the ability to scale it, to rotate it. We're not going to touch that now. Here I'm moving it sideways so I can reposition it, but I'm going to go back to 0 because those images were aligned accordingly, or at least I hope. But usually you could also align them here, but the best way is to align them where you're preparing the images, either Photoshop or GIMP. We will show this in another section. So now we have our top image already put in. We now want to add a front image. So I'm going to do the same procedure. Add image here, and I will scroll down. The same thing. Open, and I will go to my desktop because that's where I shouldn't have it, and class and front view. Open image. Notice now it came all over the place. Again, it's also on the top, front, and right view, so we need to change the same as we did before. I will scroll down. I have a whole, and it says here, access all views, and we want this only on the front. So I click this here, and front view. So now I got my top view and my front view, and they seem to be okay. And for my sake, I will also change the opacity to 100. Right. And I think then we should be good. We go now. It's up here, add image, and then I have to scroll down. Open, and this should be side. Right. When I load it, it comes on all the images, but I'm going to go and change this here to side. Side, I think in this case will mean front, right, yeah, right. So I got now this this basically 3 orthographic views of my model. Okay, so we got these 3 screens, and I'm going to now move to my second display layer. Now notice this, because these are connected to the cameras, I still have those images everywhere. Once I will not want to see them, I can click on the eye icon and hide them, but they're going to be in every display layer. So the display layer will have just the objects that we're putting. And I'm going to create a cylinder. So let's just all click here. I'm on the second display layer because this is going to be the body of the plane, and I will call it the body. I don't know. Okay, so let's click on a cylinder, but yet not click on anything else, because only the moment when we can create, we can actually, here we have a lot of the properties of the cylinder, so we can adjust them at first. Now I am going to make it a lot less divisions. So here it says 32, and I'm going to click this and change it to 12, because we want to start with a low poly model, and we'll add more details. You could do the radius and the depth here. You have a few options. You can also scale it like this. Scale it up, down. I'm not going to even bother with this now. More important for me, the vertices, that I moved it to 12, to a lower poly event. Because I can scale it up like this. So we got this, and the next thing I want to fit it now into that it looks correct in all views. So I will need to rotate it 90 degrees. So I'm changing it. I guess I will have to do it a few times, 90 degrees. Once I rotate and leave it, I have again here the angle to be more accurate, and then I can press 90 degrees on this side. I start rotating it now on this axis. I'm always working on one axis. And when I do this, I should have, this is minus 90. So approximately I got it to be, if I look at it from here, it's aligned right here, it's aligned correctly here, and it's aligned correctly here, just not in the right position. And one suggestion, when you're scaling or rotating, always work, when you click on one of the marker, you're only working on one axis, and that's an easier way to work. I will undo this. So it's better to rotate side by side. Let's say I rotate this, I just gave it a bit, and it tells me the angle I rotate, minus 19, and I will bring it back to 0. Okay? The move in all these controls, I'm always clicking on shortcuts on my keyboard. You have them here. So I'm using this QWERTY, Q-W-E-R-T-Y, and basically W is the transform, E is rotate, R is scale, T is nothing. Ah, that's what we were looking for. But when we lost the thing, you press T, it comes back. Before we were looking at it. So, cool. Now we're all pretty much have a cylinder aligned. Okay, good. And I will just move it into position here. I'm not so much bothered about this world space yet. Now another thing, if I want to move it and actually see what I'm doing more properly, I will press 4 for wireframe. Also, instead, you can also go here and you have all your viewing. So solid is this way, which is number 5, and wireframe is number 4. I use the shortcuts, but you're always welcome to go from here. So it's either solid or wireframe. Texture we don't have yet, and we're not dealing with. Okay. Now in this system of modeling, what we're going to do is basically trace this cylinder into position, and then we'll start adding more divisions so we can start giving it more details. So the first thing I want to do is actually, I will start, let's say, from this scale. I will just scale it a bit and move it around, or I can press on tab, and on tab, if I go right-click vertex, and I can select, let's say, all these vertices. But notice, and this is important, Yishai showed this before again, notice what happens if I have 5 on, and I'm on object mode, and I Marquee select all the vertices. If you notice here, it only selects me half, without this side. So this is a big mistake. A lot of people do that. They're on this mode, and they select half of the object. So if you want to select through it, you need to be on wireframe and Marquee select the side, and now I got all this together. Now I'm going to use the scale tool to actually adjust it. But what the scale does, because I have a group of vertices, it just moves them in proportion. So if I press R now, and again, I would just work with one axis at a time. I will not scale from the center. I'm going to now, let's say, squeeze this down here. And I will go with this top view and squeeze it on this side. So I'm doing axis by axis, side by side. And I will also press the transform to move it, because I wasn't so accurate. So we need to position the first one on all views in the front of the plane without this part, and the last one here. So let's start with the first one, and I can just go. I can now scale this down. Now, since I'm scaling from the center, I might move everything up again to fit. So now we're just roughly getting the positions. We don't need to be super accurate. We'll add these details the more we go. So top view, the ones of you that finish with the front, move to the back, and again you can do it. Now I see my back is, I'm going to align it here. So I'm now working on the edge of it. I'm aligning it to the end place. Now notice I'm doing things on each axis separately. On the top view for this part, and if you see the shape I have is very strange, but then I will do it from the right view, side view, to get this into. Now a lot of times you will need to zoom in to get it very accurate. When I look at my image now, I have this cylinder, and you see I don't have the right width here or here. I need to start adding more divisions for it. So this is if we go to our tools, and I'm going to go now with, I go to tools, I press tab to go to edit mode, and I want to start giving more divisions to my object so I can start shaping this more accurately. If you see here, I don't have any divisions. I have this loop cut and slide. I just click this tool, and then if I go, we get this line on top. If I click and move it manually, I can move it wherever I want to position. I'm actually going to go by the lines that are marked in the drawing on the side. So I'm going to put one here, and left click to lock it into place. So this is here. And I will do this again a couple of times, not so many, just where I see that it can give a bit of shape. So another loop cut and slide, and I will do, let's say, one before the chair. I'm not being super precise, so some of you will forgive me, hopefully. But the point is to get the idea. So I added a few, if we look at it at our view here, I added a few loops here. And then I will start doing the same way. I have to make sure you're on 4 wireframe mode, so I can marquee select the first loop I added, and then I can actually zoom into it, scale it up. I'm a bit scaling and moving at the same time, so I can position. So I did the side, now I will go for top view, and just get it there. I'm always working one axis at a time. And then I will go now to the next one, marquee select everything, and move this up. So all we're doing is we're moving vertices around and a bit scaling them. And the same, I'm going to the same to this one. Oh, sorry. Scale tool, R. And I'm scaling it on one axis to go up. Now, okay, the shape is actually, yeah, lower it. This chair is a bit differently done, but yeah. But we want, for starters, just a general shape. We will get it very accurate at the end. The idea is that first we get the rough shape that fits. So I have this part I've done, and now I'll do the same on the top view. Oh, sorry. So now I can go here on the top view, marquee, select this group, and scale it to the place. Again, the next one, and scale it to the place. So I'm starting to actually define the shape a bit better. Some might say, but cool. I'll give a bit of time to see it when we can go. I will just do it all the way to the end. You don't need to worry that it's super precise because we're just going to put a few more to get this shape across. So again, I'm just showing this again. I'm adding loop cut and slide. I stand on the thing and I will add one here at the top of it. And I will do again loop cut and slide. Add one here. Now, the more divisions we get, the more precise it'll get. The more the curves will look nice, but I'm still not so worried about it. This we'll have plenty of time to adjust. I'm just scaling this up here. So let's try to get the body shape up to here, to the nose, and back to here. Obviously, I'm always working view by view. I'm not so much worried yet with the front view. I will be later. If you see a real reference of this plane, actually the sides are flat. They're straight. They're not. They look curvy, but if we see it here, we see a better example. The sides are flat, which we'll deal with a bit later when we'll get into the details. Okay. Now, see, the images are not perfectly aligned, but we're just getting a general shape. If you do want to be really perfectly aligned, you can do this. And if I go back to my image, and let's say I go to my top, I have here a way to move it across. If you press Shift, it should move more precisely. Another thing that can help you.
If you want to select and still be on this, not on wireframe, if you want to be on full mode, you have this button down here. I don't know if you can see the mouse. Yeah, this button, you can actually, this way is the default, and we cannot select the back. But if you press this button, we disable it, and now we can select both sides, so you don't have mistakes. It's a very cool trick.
No, but the thing is, usually when you work with the outlines like this, you should have a lot of images of, because even with the outlines, we don't see a lot of details that are happening. Today we just wanted more to show, to get this setup of loading images and modeling through Floris. Here's a word I know. It's one of the first, but we can go later on. Usually you would take the side views and you would have a lot of images to reference the materials, the shapes, the corners, and that's can get a bit tricky. I would never know the shape of the, I'll just go to the display layer now. So I could. Okay, let's just try, we're not so good with time. Because we're going to continue working on this, and we'll also continue working with this next time to get it more fine-tuned. But also, the thing is that we want to finish this part up. Okay, let's add this part, the nose. If I select the faces, and I will use, so far I just added divisions. I could have pulled this up, added a division, but I can also just go with extrudes. So I can extrude, this time it doesn't matter if it's region or, so I'm pulling this out forward. Now when I press extrude, and if I click on the right mouse, then it's loose. I can just move it. If I click on the right, it pops back into place. But it's still created an extrude. So you see I have this little dots here. I will have to take W. I have all these faces again. A lot of times, and this happens to a lot of people, when they extrude, they create these little dots here, and then they don't know how the model crashes or doesn't work. You have double faces. So be very careful with that, and I'll just show this again. This is the shape as it was. And when I did extrude region, if I just drag it across, I can put it and lock it with the right mouse to here. But I could also, and more accurately, I did undo, extrude region, I can just right-click the mouse, it bounces back to the 0 point, but it's got the extrudes, they're already made, and then I'll pull it out so I can have more control. And I will pull it out by the Floris for this side. So just watch out with this idea that you don't get double faces. You will get it a few times, but we will clear this out. So I'm scaling it here. It's the same as we did before, and I'm going to also scale it on this side. So I'll get the snout of the plane. I'm just getting the shape. I will show maybe one more thing, although we'll do it again the next time. I'll just show it roughly so we feel like we got some shape. We're going to make the propeller now, yeah? And we'll do the propeller from scratch next time, just to show the same things with extrude. So let's say I have this face selected, and I will do again extrude region. And I usually click on the right mouse to snap it back to its origins, and W for the transform, and move it a bit straight out. So make a square or a cylinder and then start with that. When we need to define the shape, I don't know if we'll get to the wings today, but make them as a separate object, and then we'll stitch and bridge them. There's another tool to connect things. The reason I did this, and we will do this again, now I have this taken out, and that's where my propeller will come out from. So what I can do now is go into my face mode, and I will select one face on top, and I will go down and select the equivalent, the parallel face to it on the bottom. So it should be, if I look at it from in wireframe, I'll see it even better. So it should be the corresponding face on top. And I just have these two faces selected. This is a very easy way to make the propeller. We will do the propeller more accurately in time. And now I go back to my shape here. I'll press even 5 so I see it more. And I will do extrude individual. And I pull it out. And I'm pulling it out, if you see the circle here in this view. And I'll snap. Now the propeller, in reality, we will make it separate piece. We won't make it like this. It's just that we're going to try to get a quick shape out just to get the idea. Now another trick, because if you want to try and do the propeller at home later on, is to add more divisions here and rotate it. I will show it now with just, I'm selecting these top vertices, and I'm using the rotate tool to just give it a bit of a twist. Now I don't have enough divisions for it to work nicely, but just so we have some kind of shape across. And I'll do the same thing for this bottom ones. I'm just selecting all the bottom vertices, and I'm doing a bit of a rotate. Now the propeller, what I'm doing now is we're going to do it again. Now one problem that I'll have if I look at this model, and I'll press 3 to smooth it, it'll look pretty. It gets a bit too. Yeah. It gets this shape smooth, but I have a problem. Now we can add more divisions, but we're going to do the propeller separate. Let's go back to 1. Why can't I go back? And why did it get so shiny? Okay. So I have this shape now. Now there's still a lot of work, of course, to go. Just with the wings quickly, so we can do it. We can also start with a separate object for them. If you create another object, also important. If I have this clicked and I'll create an object, they will be combined. They'll be joined. I don't want to have them combined. I will click outside to make sure this is not selected, and I will do create. I'm going to do for now a cube, just to get the simplest, although this would be a cylinder as well. And I create a cube. Now these two objects are not together, they're separate objects. Just to show this problem, because it happens the same, if I went and I had this selected and I would do create cube. Edit mode, okay. Here it won't do it, good. So the idea is, because this can happen, if I'll create a cube, it's connected now, so we don't want to do that. I'll undo this. You will sometimes see that you're creating a new object and it's combined with other ones and you cannot select it, so this is the thing, to make sure you're not selected and creating a cube, just a good habit. Okay, the same as we did before. I take this cube and we can add to it a lot more details later, but I'm gonna start by moving it a bit to position. I'm using the tools just to roughly shape it like the wing. Now the wings are actually smaller than what they seem in this picture. Let's just see it on 4. I think. Now I see here it's wrong, and I will go on this side the same and scale it to fit. I'm always jumping between the views, so now on this one I can already see this is way too thick. I'm actually creating kind of mock-up of the shape of the plane. It's not anything detailed yet, but this we can always add more divisions and start really detailing. Going to tab mode on this wing and add loop cut and slide. And I'll add some division here. With the loop cut and slide, if you have, wait, we can do a few of them. You see what I can do? I can click on one in the middle and then here number of cuts, just to make it more even. I'll still keep it very low poly, because I don't want to have too much mess. Let's say something like this. So I created a cube, I created the divisions, and now I will just start to a little bit get the shape of the wing from one view. Let's scale this down. Okay, so this is from one view, and I want to. Let's say this is my shape of the wing, the rough placeholder, the first one, and I will now take this shape, sorry, and just Control D to duplicate, W to move it, and I'm moving it down here. So I'm making 3 times copies of this thing, Control D. No, I didn't smooth it yet. I just added some divisions to create this arch. Look, we are going to do this with the propeller and the wings from in the next time as well. So I mean, I do want to show it, so maybe the people that want to try this more at home and get this plane more advanced with just those tools, adding edge loops, moving vertices, we can do that. Now, another thing I can, yeah, I inserted an edge loop and then I just put 304. So the next thing is I'm going to select them together, just to get a bit of this offset, and select the other one. It's not too accurate here.